So, what's particularly good about this answer? Well, the first thing is what we see here, which you can quite clearly see the argument. Most of you are actually quite good at that particular bit. Now, what this answer does, which lots of you missed, is this bit here. This meant that. It says, in the Middle Ages, the church had influence on law and order because it provided sanctuary for criminals. So you got your fact, and then the person puts in this meant that. If someone committed a crime, they could run to the nearest church and goes on to explain what sanctuary all was and what it meant. But, and this is where the answer becomes genius, because it then says, this did influence law and order because it meant that if the criminal did decide to leave the country, then there would be one less criminal to deal with. So you see, not only does it give you a point, it explains that point, and then it turns it back to the question to explain how this thing had a lot of influence over law and order, and therefore how the church had a lot of influence over law and order. And if we look further down, they've said, well, this paragraph's about community. So in the Middle Ages, there wasn't a police force. This meant that. You can see I've ticked it onto the work. This resulted in... And you see, they're just going that bit further, using those connectives to make sure they've really explained themselves. Now, whoever's this answer is, it's a very good one, but you're probably thinking, what would their target be? What could they do to improve? It's brilliant if you could have worked this out yourself, so I'd have a go at pausing, seeing if you can think a bit for yourself before you hear the answer. But the key thing is, well, although they've really explained themselves really well, they've only mentioned one thing in their paragraph about the church, and it would be better to have mentioned sanctuary and other things before doing a bigger section maybe on what it all meant and a bit less of a section on exactly what the things were, if you see what I mean. Because that would mean that they're talking more about the question and less about knowledge that relates to... more about the question, less about knowledge that relates to the question. So the key thing would be is to get 2, or 3 bits of evidence into a paragraph on a particular subtopic. But hey, let's not take away from the fact this is one of the better answers in the class. It was excellent standard for the start of this year because they keep using those connectives. Make sure you try to get some more into your answers to improve. And the key words, let's just have a little look at those key words that are in there. Influence, I can see there. Influence over there. Influence over there. Influence over there. See, 1, 2, 3, 4 times on that first page. So there we go. There's another thing for you to look for.